things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. That we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. The things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out.
Revelation 19. And after these things, I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, Alleluia! Salvation and glory and honor and power unto the Lord our God. For true and righteous are his judgments, for he hath judged the great whore which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and hath avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. And again they said, Alleluia! And her smoke rose up for ever and ever. And the 24 elders and the 4 beasts fell down and worshipped God that sat on the throne, saying, Amen, Alleluia. And a voice came out of the throne, saying, Praise our God, all ye servants, and ye that fear him, both small and great. And I heard, as it were, the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, And as the voice of mighty thundering, saying, Alleluia! For the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. Let us be glad and rejoice, and give honor to him. For the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white. For the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. And he saith unto me, Light, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of God. I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God. For the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun. And he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast, and the kings of the earth, and their armies, gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse, and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. And the remnant was slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh.
Good evening. It's January 29th, 2015. I would remind everybody, as is what happened last night, please go over to the Facebook page, join the Facebook page. If there's updates or anything last minute that happens or goes on, that's where I will make the announcements. Sorry if I sound a little bit not quite chipper tonight. Lots of things going on today, especially right before I started the show. I apologize for being a little bit behind, a little bit late for the show. And I would like to ask again, and I really hate asking, but I would like to ask for your prayers again for myself and for Jennifer. It would really help. As many people as we can get to pray. If you know somebody that is generous in prayer, please ask them to say a prayer as well. Yeah, it's you know. I would also ask you to say a prayer for my boys. Lots of stuff today. So anyway, let's go ahead and get on with Suspicious Observers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do the news stories that I had slated for yesterday, because throughout the day when I intended to go over those news stories, a bunch of other stuff came out, and then more things came up in my life that prevented me to keep up with the news stories more or less. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. So we'll start out with Suspicious Observers and go from there. Links are down in the About tab as always.
actually a fairly standard satellite maneuver that happens every few weeks. It does make our job a bit harder, but we were still able to see a beautiful filament release on the northeastern limb. We continued to see X-ray flashing into this morning, and even a small umbral magnetic field snap at a departing active region. Not much interesting took place during the satellite maneuver, but for those who want a full 24 hours unchopped, here we are at the Proba 2 swap operating in 174 angstroms. Only thing SDO didn't catch was the small ejecta on the limb there. As written as history, this solar flare uptick continues. We took more M-class flares the last day, and now the high-energy protons are rising with them. Today's sunspot situation requires a bit of depth. That departing region that had an umbral snap indeed appears to be mixing magnetically as it departs the Earth's side. Spots to the south lack such complexity, but the big guy towards the center disk continues to impress. That backside part with bipolarity has given us many of the M flares we've seen. Lead group breaking into triple positive. It begins departing tonight. Meanwhile, we'll have to watch development behind that as these spots are growing, and at the limb, you see the big dog. What didn't come from the center group has come from here, and it appears this will be one of the biggest spots since that mega spot we saw a few months ago. Solar wind has telemetry dropping, density, plasma speed, and the temperature. As this occurs, the electron flux is gaining a bit more flat, smooth stability, and the minor disruptions in Earth's magnetic shield are waning away nicely now. The flares are up on the sun-diving comet and planetary geometry, but we also expect an extended quake uptick with them, and because of this coronal hole facing Earth now. We have already had some tremors, but they continued with a near 6-pointer in California. No damage, but this is a once or twice a year type of quake. With 3 offshore rumbles in the southeast Pacific, the South and Central American coastline should be on alert. We've even got some in Europe. Greece with a 5-pointer, and a 3.8 in England marks the largest tremor at that location in a very long time. Today's Earth news. Linked for you below, Titan got caught at the noon position of Saturn during a solar wind flux, leaving it open to the bombardment. It acted like a comet. In the Indian Ocean, those twin Uyen storms churn away, still into the middle of nowhere. We've got rapid scat and GPM views of the nor'easter that just pounded New England. Some areas received 1 to 2 feet more than was forecast. Yikes. The next winter storm, already on its heels, coming across the Midwest states. Meanwhile, the Southwest sees more rain in the forecast. Up north, the power low is churning up this next winter storm here. But let's come up a cloud level and turn on the precipitable water to find a reinforced push right atop Southern California and into the desert. Canada, more snow. In Europe, your eyes can't help but note the big curving cloud line making its way inland. Let's go see what's causing this storm event. A powerful low-pressure node and convergence are the key. Pressure overlay will show the gradient between the strongest system in the northern hemisphere and a powerful oceanic high. Bad weather along the outside edge of the low. Down under, monsoon continues in the north while we've got clouds between nations and in the far southwest. Power low sitting just west of New Zealand with pressure convergence to the west, both connected to the monsoon moisture at the north. Folks, Conscious Life Expo is about a week away. I've got events every day of the conference and would love to see you guys out at the LAX Hilton. But now, in addition to the live ticket links, down below this video, you can find the link to watch live stream events. Can't make it to Cali? Watch online. Got the current conditions followed by shots of our star to close. It's 6:10 a.m. in the east, 3:10 on the west coast. That's the news. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
And thanks to Ben Davidson with today's report. We're going to move right on to News in 2 Minutes by Full Spectrum Survival. And again, the link's down in the About tab. And here you go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of the News in 2 Minutes with the news that you need to know. Let's begin. Health officials in the Republic of Guinea are reporting what researchers hope to only be a temporary increase in cases of the Ebola virus. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has revised its situational report on the virus, with case fatality rates continuing dangerously above 54% in hospitalized cases and continued warnings that the virus could still spread throughout the world. In other viral news, the federal government of Nigeria is working to contain panic as the H5N1 variation of the avian flu has now been detected across 11 heavily populated regions of the Constitutional Republic, with economists warning that a spread of the avian flu among poultry farms coupled with low oil prices could spell economic disaster in the heavily embattled region. As scientists work to determine how much time the world has before the next supervolcanic eruption amid what is thought to be a temporary waning of tectonic volcanic activity, scientists and researchers with the U.S. Space Agency NASA are assisted in a growing base of volcanic research as scientists with the governmental organization partake in the process of sending robotic measuring equipment into the volcano, where they hope to understand the exact mechanism that eruptions use to force magma through the ground, and understanding that they hope will help save lives not if, but when the next supervolcano erupts. Rumors of unrest are spreading across Greece following official announcements that the country's new government has sworn to radically change the way that administration is conducted within the country. The changes, economists say, are responsible for a third day of key failing markets across Europe, following news that the country's newly empowered government would halt privatization plans that were initially agreed to under the country's over $200 billion bailout deal, and amid what continues to seem an unending economic collapse throughout the world. In a show of proof that corporate greed continues to outweigh the health or the good of the people that the corporations service, conglomerations in the oil industry are lobbying to change rules that make it illegal for hydraulic fracking companies to dump radioactive waste within the states that they operate. Research shows that radioactive waste is just one of the potentially catastrophic perils of hydraulic fracking that have been associated with drastic health declinations of residents living nearby the sites, and it occurs when spent radioactive sludge and water is driven back and forth between the Earth in a sum that may be as high as 70 tons per day, an amount that causes scientists to warn that any radiation beyond background numbers is potentially dangerous to all life forms on Earth. And to wrap things up, a former nuclear scientist has been convicted of trying to help Venezuela develop nuclear weapons in exchange for money and power. Intense fighting between Hezbollah and Israel is being reported following an increase in anti-Israeli rhetoric and multiple attacks on the Jewish state. Families who have chosen not to trust the safety and efficacy of vaccines and the heavy metals contained within the chemical combinations are being punished in California. Anti-North Korean rhetoric is increasing throughout the West following reports that the communist state may be restarting a nuclear plant that is capable of producing bomb-quality nuclear fuel. And a 5.7 off the California coastline, followed by a 5.3 in Greece, completes today's Quake Watch. And that's it for this episode of News in 2 Minutes. Check back tomorrow for more news that the aware need the most. This week's news.
And they have really been wreaking havoc out in California, and I see now Arizona with this measles vaccination thing. It's gotten to the point that it's absolutely absurd, the things that's being said. I would this is something I would keep a close eye on. Look, folks, nobody should be forced vaccinated. Nobody. It's, they're building up to something. Mark my words on that. It's been very clear they've been working on building up to something for a while when it comes to vaccinations. So get ready for it. They're really pushing it now. Again, it's this tribalism attitude. They're pitting people against each other, and it's like they're using media and social media to as tools to get people to partake in this tribalism and to more or less force them to pick a side. And your probably best bet is, I'm not saying you should remain neutral in everything, or even anything for that matter. You should have your own thoughts, your own opinions, and your own rights. But you do not have the right to push that on somebody else. You have the right to express it. Of course you have the right to express it, but to push it, you don't. That's the way this country was founded, and it was founded great. I mean, the forefathers of this country really knew their stuff when they wrote up those documents. They really knew what they were doing. They really understood what it took to be a free man or a free woman. They really did. And we're not going to get into the argument about they had slaves and all that. We're not going to get into that, you know. That's like it's like apples and oranges. It really is. If you know the facts behind it all. And again, I'm not going to get. That's more of that tribalism thing. I'm not going to pick a side. I'm not going to get into an argument about. You know, I think it was. In a sense, it was wrong how it was done, but at the same time, right now, all of us, if you're listening to this show, you're a slave in one way or another. So, you know, hate to break it to you, but if you're listening to this show, you probably already knew that. Let's go ahead and get on with the news. Actually, this was something. Oh, this was what I was. This is what I was talking about. Let me go ahead and just play the video here, since I'm starting kind of late. I'll let them do the reporting. Well, I will start.
Concerns about the measles are keeping 66 students from a Southern California high school at home. The high school in Palm Desert near Palm Springs told the students to stay away from school until February 9th because they are not vaccinated for measles and may have been exposed.
They are going to be asked to stay home until the incubation period for contagion would be complete.
I think it's just a safety precaution for the kids who do it, just in case they do get it. It's a good way to make sure everyone is safe and doesn't get hurt.
School sent a girl home on Monday with a suspected measles case. She's been allowed to return, but the scare prompted the school to check vaccination records and notify parents.
Telephone calls are being made today, followed by letters to the parents and additional follow-up calls after that.
I do think it's important because they need to stay safe and healthy, so I do think it's good for them too.
The measles outbreak began in Southern California last month, with more than half of the cases linked to Disney parks. At least 95 cases have been reported. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
It's just kind of interesting, and I don't have anything against them doing what they have done there. I just have a definite problem with forced vaccination. But yeah, you know, if you'd like to err on caution and, you know, have students sit out during the incubation period, I don't think there should be a problem with that. I don't think really anybody should see a problem with that. You know, again, it's all about freedom, and you know, sometimes in order to keep that freedom, we have to pay a price, and unfortunately, we've got a lot of a price to pay to not only keep but regain our freedom. But I won't get started on that note. This is the story I thought I was going to be starting out with. I've seen the other one today, put it in there, so pardon me. Students forced to expose underwear for inspection, and this should have national outrage. And again, I'll let the video play. It'll do it faster than I can do it, and this should spark a national outrage.
In Gustine, Texas, population 457, what happens at the schoolhouse affects nearly everyone. And something happened Monday that's causing a big controversy in this small town.
I felt uncomfortable and I didn't want to do it. And it felt like they violated my privacy.
11-year-old Eliza Medina was one of about 24 elementary students rounded up. Boys in one room, girls in another. She says they were ordered
to pull down their pants and check them to see if they could find anything.
I said I didn't want to, but I had to because all the kids had to.
I was furious. I mean, I was furious.
Eliza's mom explains.
They've been finding poop on the gym floor.
She can imagine the frustration, but says even for feces on the floor, you don't partially strip search a group of students to find the culprit.
If you can't do your job, or if you don't know what you're doing, then you need to be fired. You do not need to be here.
The superintendent.
Maybe we could find a much better way to help solve this.
Acknowledges that making kids drop their pants to determine who caused a mess.
That would be too far. It's not, that's not appropriate, and we would not condone that. And so you would take this very action.
But Ken Ball says his understanding so far is that the children were told to lower their pants just a little. Eliza Medina insists it was more than that.
To right there, like to where like your butt is.
And her mother says even a little is too much.
I mean, wrong is wrong.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to end that quick. And that's kind of crazy, you know? I mean, let's think here for a little bit. If they were going to be able to tell something by sight, they would have probably been able to get a little bit of a whiff of it. You know what I mean? They could individually have the students come in the room and do the O-nose test or something. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I understand they had an issue. They needed to deal with it, but there was much better ways to deal with it than the way they did. And we really got to put our foot down with these school systems and stuff like that, because you know, it's becoming ridiculous. I mean, you got schools to where kids can't wear shirts with American flags on them, or you know, it's really ridiculous. And I'm talking about public schools. You know, I understand certain private schools have certain rules. Private schools, you know, a lot of them have particular uniforms they got to wear, so I could understand why, you know, a particular shirt wouldn't be allowed, especially when you got to wear their shirt, the one that they require. That's all understandable, but that's private schools. Public schools, we really need to start looking at this. There's a lot of stuff going on, folks. I see it every day. I see it in the news. I see different things going on that just shock me. And please, you know, keep your eyes open, because this stuff is happening all over. Another thing that's happening way too often is child abuse. And that is another thing that's very sickening to me. Wow. And if you knew my personal situation, you would, I don't know. It's indeed a interesting situation. But anyway, women's cut kids' throats to quieten them. A young mother in Washington State has been charged with attempted murder after authorities say she cut her children's throats in an attempt to keep them quiet. Over the weekend, Christina Booth called 911 to report that her 3 children were crying nonstop and needed medical attention, according to a recent probable cause filing. 28-year-old and her husband, Thomas Booth, have 3 children, a 2-year-old and his 6-month-old twins. When officers arrived at the Olympia, Washington home Saturday night, they found a troubling scene. As spelled out by a local prosecutor, police saw the twins on the couch crying uncontrollably and bleeding from their necks. One officer then went upstairs and found the couple's 2-year-old in bed under the covers with dry blood all over her. All 3 were taken to a local hospital where CNN affiliate KOMO reports they underwent surgery and are now in stable condition and will be placed in protective custody. In their probable cause filing, authorities paint a picture of a mother overwhelmed and suffering from postpartum depression. A judge set bail for Booth at $3 million, KCPQ and another CNN affiliate reported. The night that ended in tears and blood began with wine and a movie. In the probable cause filing, Thomas Booth told investigators he had 2 large glasses and his wife had at least the same amount. Thomas said he was feeling intoxicated, the document reads, and Christina was intoxicated to the point that she was slurring her words. I'm not intoxicated. As the movie wrapped up, Thomas Booth told police his wife took the toddler upstairs to put her to bed. But then a short time later, Christina came down the stairs in only her underwear, crying and screaming. Christina Booth, like her husband, spoke to authorities without an attorney present. Her story differs from her husband's slightly, a local prosecutor said. She told a police detective that she was having a really rough time taking care of her 3 children. She said that her husband never helps and that he gets very annoyed when the children cry and make noise. Like her husband, Christina Booth said they were watching a movie and she went to put the toddler to bed just before the movie ended. She then told authorities that the twins started crying and she hit her breaking point. In the probable cause document, a prosecutor says she confessed to the crimes of which she stands accused, saying she knew if she killed all the kids in the house, that the kids would be quiet for Thomas. During the interview, Christina broke down crying several times, yelled about Thomas never helping with the kids, the document says. Christina made the comment, "They will be quiet now," several times. Thomas Booth told police that his wife has been very stressed out raising the children and that she took medication for postpartum depression. He also said she always takes the children out of his presence if they cry. The couple's account differs in where the attack of the twins took place. Christina Booth told authorities she carried them downstairs after attacking her toddler and cut their necks while they lay on the couch. Her husband told police she found the babies upstairs with injuries to their necks and brought them downstairs to render first aid. Thomas Booth has not been charged, and KOMO reports that police do not suspect he played any kind of role in the violence. KOMO reports he's an active duty soldier who was recently deployed overseas. Neighbors described Christina Booth as sweet, vivacious, and a loving mother. Wow. You know, folks, first off, I've asked for prayers for myself and Jen and my children, and I would like you to pray for these children as well. There's just a rampant amount of this kind of stuff going on, and we really need to start looking into it. I think it has to do with the medications. I think that people that talk about all the radio waves and all the Wi-Fi signals and all that, I do think that they have a valid point. I think there's a lot of things, and that's just above and beyond the general stress that people feel nowadays, because it's getting harder for people to pay bills and put food on the table and stuff like that. So, I think it all plays a part, but we really need to sit down and we need to have a discussion as a nation on this, and we need to fix the problem, not find a medication, because I really do feel that these medications are a huge link to a lot of the activity that's going on. And if you don't think so, look at the amount of vets that are put on these SSRIs and wind up taking their own life. And the facts and the statistics say it all. So let's get on with the next story. Going on over to Russia here. Russia's prime minister signs a multi-billion-dollar anti-crisis plan. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, I can't say these names, you guys know that, has signed a one-year anti-crisis plan designed to stabilize the economy. The document includes 60 measures and will cost at least $35 billion. The final cost hasn't yet been calculated, but the official statement published Wednesday shows that as for now, the government is going to spend about $35 billion, which also includes the $15 billion bailout for Russian banks agreed last year. Last Friday, Russia's Agency for Deposit Insurance approved of at least 27 lenders that will get the bailout money, including VTB Group. That other group there. And wow, I can't even, you got to be Russian to say these names. I apologize. As part of the plan, Russia will also create a bank for bad debt that'll collect corporate debt and problematic company assets. The overall cost is expected to be clarified by March 2015 after agreeing on the measures with deputies and members of the Federation Council. Now, I want to focus on that previous paragraph there. And I don't know, I am not a banking type of person, but I really would like to know if this sounds like anything they've done in the other countries, what I highlighted there. I would really like to know. Again, I'm not going to read the rest of this. Links down in the About tab. They've got the gold. I don't get why we're playing with all this paper money and everything else. They've got the gold. It just, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Part of me, when I try and put the big puzzle together, I see Russia as being just another piece to that puzzle. And then at the same time, other parts of me feels like it looks like they're trying to break away from that central banking system, and they're trying to break away from all the nonsense and the global control. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. But anyway, that is what's going on in that area. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit of Ebola tonight. Haven't heard about that a lot in the news here lately. Anyway, world dangerously unprepared for future pandemics. It's not just Ebola; it's all kinds of things. But I do know they intentionally put Ebola in there. The world is dangerously unprepared for future deadly pandemics like the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. The president of the World Bank has warned. And get this, it's the World Bank. Why isn't the WHO saying this? Why is the World Bank saying this? Well, let's go ahead. Jim Young Kim, I think I got that one, speaking in Washington, said it was vital that governments, corporations, aid agencies, and insurance companies work together to prepare for future outbreaks. He said they needed to learn lessons from the Ebola crisis. More than 8,500 people have died, most in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. The Ebola outbreak has been devastating in terms of the lives lost and loss of economic growth. Mr. Kim told an audience at Georgetown University. We need to make sure that we get to 0 cases in this Ebola outbreak. At the same time, we need to prepare for future pandemics that could become far more deadly and infectious than what we have seen so far with Ebola. We must learn the lessons from the Ebola outbreak because there is no doubt we will be faced with other pandemics in the years to come. So I'm not going to read the entire article, but I thought it was interesting. The link, of course, is in the About tab. I thought it was rather interesting that, this bank guy is talking about this. We all have our suspicions with a lot of the Ebola stuff, and I thought that was rather interesting, being who did it. So anyway, let's move on to Israel. I've been telling you guys we really need to keep an eye on this situation. Israel launches airstrikes on Syria following a rocket attack, red line warning from Iran. Israeli jets struck several targets in Syria in response to Hezbollah rocket fire into the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, the IDF said. The exchange came as Iran warned Tel Aviv of crossing a red line with the murder of an Iranian general in Syria. The Israeli Air Force announced striking Syrian army artillery targets late on Tuesday night in response to an earlier rocket attack on Golan Heights and Mount Hermon. The IDF views the Syrian regime as responsible for what occurs in its territory and will act at any time in any way to see fit to protect the citizens of Israel, the IDF said. Wow. Israel's retaliation followed 2 rocket attacks believed to be perpetrated by Hezbollah in the northern Golan Heights on Tuesday afternoon. While the projectiles exploded in open territory and caused no damage or casualties, some 1,000 visitors to the Mount Hermon ski resort still fled for cover. And again, this is another one I'm not going to drag on. You can read the story if you want. It's just something, it's this the storyline that we're seeing being played out right in front of us. And of course, if you believe in the good book and you read the good book, and we've been doing Revelations in our Bible chapter. And if you follow that, you know that it really starts when it starts in Israel. So, wow, keep an eye on it. There's a lot of things building up with that, along with around the world, and it's really kind of hard to say which powder keg is going to go first. But biblically, I've been really keeping an eye on what's going on in Israel. Let's go on to the next story. And this one, this is actually the last story. I was wanting to talk about this for a moment. I believe it was. Yeah, there's another one, but that's okay. I wanted to discuss this a little bit. Family poisons themselves because they feared pending apocalypse. Medical examiners have ruled that a family of 5 found dead in their Utah home all died from poisoning, likely because the parents were concerned about a pending apocalypse. Parents Benjamin and Christy Stack died from self-inflicted poisoning, according to a report by KSTU, which cited authorities and documents released on Tuesday. The deaths of the youngest 2 children were ruled homicides. The 14-year-old's death was ruled undetermined. The Stack's 18-year-old son found all 5 bodies in the parents' bedroom on September 27th. The parents and the 14-year-old were found in the bed, while the other 2 children were found on mattresses next to the bed, according to the Springville Police Chief J. Scott Finlayson. The victims were reported as Benjamin Strack, 37, Christy Strack, 36, Benson Strack, 14, Emery Strack, 12, and Zion Strack, 11. Police say they found medications and cups filled with a red liquid next to the bodies. Multiple boxes of cold and flu medication were recovered at the home. Methadone was also found inside the home. According to officials, friends and family said the parents were concerned with the evil in the world, a pending apocalypse, and wanted to escape the impending doom. Friends interpreted the statements to suggest the family would possibly move somewhere to live, off the grid. Officials recovered a letter written by the 14-year-old that revealed he knew he was going to die, and his intention was to leave his possessions to a friend. In an affidavit, an officer said it's likely the deaths were not accidental, he stated. With the placement of the bodies, it would appear somebody had to position the bodies after they were deceased. The couple's other son went to check on the family after not hearing from them and found the bodies. There's already been a lot, and I read that because that's pretty much what the facts are as reported, the official story, so to speak. And so that's why I went. That's why I went with that version of the story. Anyway, it's hard to say. Let's take the conspiracy road on this. There's a lot of people that seem to think that they didn't do it themselves, that this was done to them. The prepper community seems to be pretty up in arms, pretty concerned with it, because these were from what I understand, considered preppers. And look, folks, first of all, let's err on the side of correctness, that this story is correct or whatever. Yeah, I think we've got a lot coming our way. We've got a very long, hard road. And if you're listening to this show, you probably already know that. But doing this, taking your family's life, taking your own life to escape it is not the answer. If you've been called upon to make it, to do this, to prepare, to be ready, then you need to follow through on it. It's not going to be easy. Of course it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of things that we aren't going to want to see, a lot of things we aren't going to want to deal with. But nevertheless, it's important. And if you've got eyes to see and ears to hear, and if you've had a few bucks to put some things back to get ready, then you really need to stick it out. On the other note, if this was not self-inflicted, if this was a case to where they were suicided, as I like to put it, look, preppers really need to keep their mouths shut. They really do. They really need to keep their mouths shut. It's one thing for those of us to get out here, and I'm not so much a prepper anymore. I don't have no supplies. I have nothing. I mean, thanks to my soon-to-be ex-wife, I have nothing. Except for the knowledge in my head and knowing a few people. But, for those out there that's putting themselves in a nice cachet of things together, whether it be food or weapons or all of the above, it's one thing for those of us that choose to get out here and get out in the public and speak about this stuff. That's one thing. We know the risk, or at least I would believe that most of us know the risk that we take. But if you're not, if that's not what you've been called upon to do, then keep quiet. Do what you need to do. You know, get yourself prepared, get your stuff stocked up, ready to go, and most importantly, mentally and spiritually prepared. And then just wait for the dance to start. But don't run around and tell everybody in the world what you're doing. Sure, you can bring it up. You know, you can talk to other people about your concerns and your thoughts about the things that's going on in the world, but really keep your plans to yourself unless you're putting together a community. If you have a group of like-minded individuals that you're speaking with and would like to work together as a team, a community to pull through this, then of course you're going to have to discuss this stuff. But as far as just an outright doing this and saying this for bragging rights or narcissism is probably the best word to put on it. It's probably not a good idea. So don't know which way this case goes. I really have no idea. Again, there's a lot of people that have really been talking about it, many different sides of many fences with this incident. But, you know, I would ask you to pray for the family. I would ask you to pray for their loved ones. And either way, whether they did it themselves or whether it happened to them, just say some prayers for them as well. So anyway, that's what I do have for you tonight. Sorry, I'm about 10 minutes shy because I started late, ending a few minutes early. Lots going on in my life today, and again, I ask for prayers for myself and for the beautiful Jennifer and for my wonderful boys. And I will be saying prayers for all of you, as I always do. So may God bless you. May he walk with you. Always be one with your spirit. And I do love you all. Hang in there. We'll get through this. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.